What if I told you that Kendrick Lamar didn't kill hip-hop? He saved it? Yeah, that's the take. And no, it's not coming from a so-called industry insider with label connections or paid promotion deals. It's coming from someone who's been watching, listening, and paying attention to what's really going on. Because while DJ Akademiks and Kanye West spiral deeper into controversy and chaos, Kendrick Lamar has quietly done something powerful. He's brought the focus back to the music. Let's start with Akademiks. For years, he's been one of the most dominant voices in hip-hop media. From his early days covering the war in Chiraq to co-hosting Everyday Struggle with Joe Budden, he carved a lane by tapping into the culture's most salacious, click-worthy drama. He wasn't known for insightful lyrical breakdowns or nuanced album reviews. He was known for chaos, controversy, and co-signing the messiest artists in the game. Think about it. Lil Yachty, Trippie Redd, A Boogie. These were the faces of a certain era of hip-hop, the SoundCloud era. And Akademiks was their biggest cheerleader. He helped push them into the spotlight, covering every beef, every outburst, every viral moment. And while it worked for a while, that era is fading fast. The numbers don't lie. Lil Uzi went from selling 300K first week to barely pushing 60K. Artists like Polo G, Fivio Foreign, and Lil Che have either dropped off the map or become more known for internet drama than actual music. And 6699? Who even knows where he is anymore? Here's the point. The very class of artists that Akademiks built his platform around is either falling off, locked up, or worse. And now he's scrambling. Because the new wave isn't about antics, it's about artistry. Enter Kendrick Lamar. In 2024, Kendrick dropped an album that reignited a spark in hip-hop we hadn't seen in years. GNX wasn't just a hit, it was a moment. Cohesive, concise, bar-heavy, and intentional. It didn't have 25 filler tracks, it wasn't engineered for TikTok virality. It was made to be listened to, and people did. The album charted 2 #1 hits, stayed atop the Billboard charts for months, and outperformed Drake's last release. And more importantly, it made fans care about albums again, about lyrics, about bars, about meaning. But instead of celebrating that, Akademiks called it the death of hip-hop. Why? Because he spoke to a few rappers, non-lyrical, non-woke rappers as he put it, who said Kendrick made the genre too lyrical, like battle rap, and now it's harder for them to get attention. Let that sink in. They're upset because Kendrick raised the bar. They're frustrated because mediocrity doesn't cut it anymore. And that's not just a threat to those artists, it's a threat to Akademiks himself, because his entire platform was built around pushing music that required zero critical thinking. It was about drama, not depth, clout, not craftsmanship. The Kendrick era doesn't fit into that model, and that's why Akademiks is calling it the death of hip-hop. But it's not the death, it's a rebirth, a reset. Now let's talk about the Kanye interview. This was supposed to be Akademiks' biggest moment. A sit-down with the artist he calls the greatest of all time, the man who changed hip-hop, the guy whose music helped define a generation. And what did they talk about? Not the music, not vultures, not graduation, not the creative process. Nope. They talked about Kanye's ex-wife, his kids, his beef with Virgil, conspiracies about Lucian Grange, and how he thinks he's the closest thing to God on earth. All while Kanye wore a Triple K costume and a Mustache Man chain. You know exactly what that means. Akademiks sat there, nodding along, letting Kanye spiral. He didn't push back. He didn't redirect the conversation. He just let the train wreck unfold because he knows chaos gets clicks, and that's the problem. This wasn't about the music. It never is with Akademiks. Even when he had one of the biggest artists in the world sitting across from him, he couldn't bring himself to have a real conversation about hip-hop. Instead, he leaned into the drama, because that's his comfort zone, that's his business model, and it's dying. There's a reason artists like Kendrick don't give interviews. There's a reason he only posts when there's new music. He's forcing the conversation back onto the art, where it belongs. And there's a reason Kanye and Akademiks feel threatened by that. Because their power doesn't come from music, it comes from manipulating the conversation around it. Let's zoom out a bit. Akademiks recently did a podcast sit-down with what I call the hip-hop offender avengers. Adam22, Vlad, Traplore Ross, Whack 100. And between the 5 of them, they barely talked about music for more than 20 minutes in a 4-hour podcast. The rest? Street gossip, legal cases, clickbait, and nonsense. This is what hip-hop media has become. But here's the good news. It's changing. We're seeing the rise of a new media wave. People like Justin Hunt, Curtis King, Screwface, Professor Sky, and Big Kish. People who care about the craft, people who are bringing real conversations, album analysis, bar breakdowns, and cultural context back to the forefront. Even on Twitch, streamers like Blackboy Max and DDG are building huge platforms by letting artists cook music live on stream, battle songs head-to-head, and talk about what the music means. Not who's beefing with who or who got locked up this week. That shift matters, because for the first time in a long time, there's actual demand for music-first conversations. Kendrick's impact didn't just shake the charts, it shook the media ecosystem. And people like Akademiks are feeling it. You can even see it in how he covers albums. He had early access to Playboi Carti's new project, previewed the whole thing, shared exclusive info. But once the album dropped, he barely talked about the music. Instead, it was all about first-week sales, controversy, and Kendrick's involvement. Because again, music isn't the product for him, it's the packaging for the drama. But fans are starting to want more. We're seeing it with the success of lyrical projects. We're seeing it with bar-focused battles dominating timelines. We're seeing it with creators who built their platforms off music alone. So when Akademiks says Kendrick killed hip-hop, he's not lying. He just means the version of hip-hop he profits from. He means the version that let artists coast on recycled formulas and clout. He means the version that allowed platforms like his to thrive off controversy, violence, and chaos. That version? Yeah, it's dying. And good riddance, because this new era, it's about the bars, the albums, the artistry. Kendrick isn't a threat to hip-hop, he's a threat to everything that was holding it back. And the best part? Fans are ready. The silent majority is speaking up. They're done with brain rot and lazy narratives. They're demanding better. So the question is, will hip-hop media evolve with it, or will it crash and burn under the weight of its own irrelevance? Because as much as Akademiks wants to cling to his throne, the conversation is shifting. And once the music takes center stage again, the people who actually care about it will rise with it. And the rest? Well, they'll fade into the background, screaming into the void, hoping someone still cares. But we don't. We care about the music, and maybe, just maybe that's what'll save hip-hop.